Okay, it's Miss Hillman here. We are set to do our test corrections for our multiplying and dividing equations quiz. All right, starting with number 1. We have 8 and 4/10 n equals 42. This means 8 and 4/10 times n equals 42. We're going to try and figure out what is that number in. To do that, we're going to undo multiplication, and we use our fraction bar to show that. We're going to do it on both sides. So we're going to divide both sides by 8 and 4/10. Cancels out. We have n equals, and I'm going to go over here and do some side work to figure this out. We have 8 and 4/10, our bottom number, the denominator, being divided into 42. Now notice we have a decimal here in our divisor, which means we do need to move it over. And we're going to use this decimal, which is at the end of our whole number, and it needs to move the same number of spaces. In this case, 1. Put in your placeholder. So now you're doing 84 into 420. Note where your decimal point is, because if you need it, you're going to move it up into your answer. Now, 84 is a big number to know in my head, so I'm going to do some work over here to figure it out. Now, I'm thinking, I know 8 goes into 42, so I know 8 goes into 42 5 times. So I'm going to try 84 times 5. If I get it right, excellent. If I don't, then it's going to tell me either to go up a number or to go down a number, depending on what my answer is. 5 times 4 is 20, carry the 2. 5 times 8 is 40 plus 2, 42, and look at that, ding, 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 just what I needed. So n is equal to 5. So you can say 5 is equal to n, or you can say n equals 5. Question number 2. N divided by 4 equals 7 1/2. We're trying to figure out what is that number that was divided by 4 to give us 7 1/2. Well, I'm going to recopy this down so you can see my property of equality. I know it says to divide by 4, so I'm going to undo that by multiplying, and both sides get multiplied by 4. This cancels out. I end up with n is equal to, and once again, I'm going to go off to the side and find this answer. So I have 7 1/2 times 4. Well, to start, I'm going to change the 7 1/2 into a improper fraction, where my top number is larger than my bottom. 2 steps, multiply and add. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 1, 15 over 2. So 15 halves. So I have 7 1/2 now written as 15 halves. I'm going to multiply that by 4. And I know 4 can become a fraction as long as I put it over 1. And now I'm looking at these and I say, hey, 2 and 4 have a common factor. That would be 2. So I can cross cancel. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. I'm left with 15 times 2 in the top for 30. And 1 times 1 in the bottom for 1. And I know 30 over 1 is just a fancy way to write 30. So in this case, n equals 30. Excellent. Up to my next one. Ashley ran a total of 18 miles in 6 days. She ran the same distance each day. Write and solve a multiplication equation to determine the number of miles she ran each day. So our job is to write and solve. So that's 2 things we have to do. And it does say it needs to be a multiplication equation. All right, so going to find keywords, it tells us that she ran a total of 18 miles, which means 18 needs to be all by itself on one side of my equal sign because I'm writing an equation. And it goes on to tell us that she does it in 6 days. Now she runs the same distance each day, but we don't know what that is. So we know 6 days, she's going to run the same distance. Let's just call that distance x. and it's going to total up to 18 miles. Here is our equation to represent the situation. Now we're going to solve. We have 18 is equal to 6 times x. First step would be to undo this multiplying by dividing. Again, my fraction bar means I'm going to divide, and I'm going to do it for both sides. So 6x divided by 6, that's going to leave me with just x, equals, and I'm going to divide the other side by 6, my property of equality. 18 divided by 6, 3. So in this case, x is equal to 3, which means in this case, so it translates to, in this case, Ashley runs 3 miles per day. Not bad, Ashley. Not bad. Okay, question number 4. But it's not numbered, but this would be number 4. Students on the school dance team were divided into 5 equal groups to learn their routine. There are 7 people in each group. Write a division equation to find out how many students were on the dance team. Now note, this time it says we are going to write a division equation. So we're going to use these numbers to write a division equation to represent the situation. Now so far, we do not know how many students are on the team. So let's just call that x. But we do know that they were divided into 5 equal groups. So we don't know how many students are on the team, but we do know they are divided into 5 equal groups. It goes on to say that in each group there are 7 people, which means after being divided, each group had 7 people. Our division equation would be x divided by 5 equals 7. Now you could go on to solve this and find out that there are 35 people on the dance team, but that's not necessary right now because it only says you have to write the equation. And our next problem. 16 eggs are required to make 8 batches of pancakes. Which of the following equations could be used to determine the number of eggs needed to make 1 batch of pancakes? All right, well, when I'm thinking about this myself, because we are finding 1 batch of pancakes, it reminds me of when we solved for unit rate. 1 batch pancakes, that would be the unit rate. How many eggs? And I know that unit rate was a division problem. So I'm going to try and write a division problem. There are 16 eggs, and we're going to split them between 8 batches. That's going to give me my how many per batch, which in this case would be E. So A would work. The next one, when I look at this next one, my next option, E divided by 16 equals 8. Well, that is not taking into account that we only had 16 eggs to start with. That was as if you were splitting the eggs into maybe 16 groups with 8 eggs in them, or maybe you're splitting the groups into 16 groups. So, well, 16 eggs in each group. Either way, this one does not work. We're looking for any problem that would give us the same answer. So where E would be equal to 2. The only other one where this works would be D. So it would be the multiplication version, noting that 16 total eggs, 8 batches, and how many eggs per batch. So this would be the multiplication version. So we could write it as a division equation. We can write it as a multiplication equation. And then finally, Jason wrote the following equation. 7n equals 63. He then solved the equation as follows. All right, I like to solve this one myself first before I look at someone else's work when I'm trying to see if they did it right or wrong. All right, so I know that when it says to multiply by 7, that's what 7n means. I'm going to do its opposite, divide by 7, both sides. N is equal to 9. I'm going to compare. it looks here that Jason multiplied both sides. So he didn't do the inverse operation. So he was supposed to divide. Jason should have divided both sides by 7. The solution is n is equal to 9. Okay, and that completes test corrections. All right.